everyone, it's Denise with Liquid Color, and today we are going to be taking a look at the American Journey watercolors from cheapjoes.com, courtesy of one of my patrons, Victor, who has been supporting me since I opened my Patreon. So he's the one who sent me, I did an unboxing video for the American Journeys, My Mary Blue, and a handmade watercolor journal. And I will do the My Mary Blue review later, but I wanted to start with the American Journeys. Now this is a paint that I've been curious about for a really long time. Like I mentioned, they're from Cheap Joe's. I did write Cheap Joe's a while back, asking if they would be interested in a review, and I never heard back from them, which is fine. But the reason I held off on purchasing my own is that there's really hardly any information available on them aside from YouTube videos that Cheap Joe's itself has come out with. The only other reviews that I have been able to find are Owens Art's review on the sampler palettes that they did, and Lindsay's, the Frugal Crafters review on their watercolor sticks, which are quite different from my understanding. So hopefully this will help you out if you're taking a look at the American Journey paints and want to know a little bit more about them. Again, thank you, Victor, for making this possible, and let's go ahead and take a look. So the color selection that I have consists of a lot of the primary colors. So I've got some yellows, reds, blues, and a couple of the natural tone colors. They are laid out in this palette with very generous sample sizes for me to be working with. And I have also swatched them out on my own swatch cards so that we can take a look at them in comparison to the other swatches in my swatch binder. The first color that he sent is Bumblebee Yellow. There are a lot of cutesy names in this set, but this is Hansa Yellow Medium. So it's a nice mid-tone of yellow. It's neither warm nor cool. I guess if I had to say, it's a little bit on the warmer side. You can see it next to a lemon yellow. It's quite a bit richer. But if we were to compare it to, say, a New Gamboge, it's quite a bit cooler than the New Gamboge, so it sits somewhere in the middle. Sorry I have some missing swatches here. I was doing some swatch cards for another review and they are not here at this particular moment, but we have plenty to go off of here. Here is American Journey's Gamboge Hue, and it's made from PY3 and PY42. And if we compare that to the Daniel Smith New Gamboge, it's a little bit lighter, a little less orange, and I actually think I prefer the American Journeys version. It is definitely more transparent than the New Gamboge, and I look forward to being able to use this color. Next we have Yellow Ochre, which is PY43. Now Yellow Ochre can be made with PY43 or 42. I only have the 42 samples to compare it to. This is a color that I generally don't like in any other brand except for Daniel Smith. I really, really love their version. It's really transparent, it's a beautiful tone, and I really enjoy it. Daniel Smith did change its formula from PY42 to PY43, so here that is for a comparison. I feel like the American Journey version is a little bit more yellow than the Daniel Smith version, which tends to be a little bit on the browner side, and the American Journey is more opaque. Daniel Smith is pretty much the only version of Yellow Ochre that I prefer to use in my paintings because it is transparent. All the other Yellow Ochres that I've worked with are definitely on the opaque side, and I know a lot of artists don't like using them. I would still use this color. It's not that opaque, and it is really beautiful when you're making animal fur tones in that range of colors. Next up I have what was labeled in the paints that were given me as raw umber, and I'm wondering if Victor can maybe clarify. This looks like raw sienna to me. I have a sample I can show you here. It's definitely more on the yellow side than the Daniel Smith version. They're both made with the same pigment. The reason I'm questioning if this is raw umber or raw sienna, and it very might well be their version of raw umber, but most raw umbers are really, really dark. Cool colors. So they're all made with PBR7, which is why I can't tell or look up based on the composition because there's so many different versions of PBR7 out there. So this is either raw umber or raw sienna. It's a transparent color, more granulating than the yellow ochre, and a little bit more on the brown side. Here we're coming back to Halloween Orange, which is Azo Orange. This I have a comparison from M. Graham. M. Graham's version is definitely more vibrant, but because of the pigment load, it's also more opaque. Therefore, American Journeys is less opaque, but more of a mid-tone. I don't like any of these colors of orange too much, but I do prefer the American Journey version over the Imgram version. Next up, I have American Journey's Quinn Burnt Scarlet. I know that I do not have this color in my binder. I don't know if there's anything I can really compare it to. It kind of reminds me of the Turner Cinnabar. Hopefully you can see that. Let me take it out and get it closer for you. The Cinnabar is a 3-color blend, however. It's a bit darker and more red, but this is a great single pigment version of the same color. I kind of wish I had known about this version before I purchased the 3-color blend from Turner. I really like this for like lips and cheeks, and it's like got this nice retro feel. The Quinn Burnt Scarlet is more transparent. It doesn't contain a white, and it's a pretty nice color, so I look forward to using that. My light is starting to get a bit bright in the window. I'll see if I can get through these colors for you in time. Next up I have American Journey's Poppy. It's made from PR188. This is another color that I do not have in my collection. It's kind of similar to like a Scarlet Lake from PR112 from Mission Gold that I just reviewed recently. And the other one that I would say it looks kind of close to is the Cadmium Red Light from Schmincke, which is PR108. Alright, then I've got PV19, which I absolutely do have other colors for you to compare it to. PV19 can come in red, pink, and purpley violet versions, so this one falls closer to the red and pink versions rather than the cooler purpley pink versions. It's a beautiful color. It's got this nice light vibrancy to it, and it's incredibly transparent. The Van Gogh is the one that I currently have in my palette, and I do think that I like the American Journey version a bit more. I think it's more useful for mixing a wider range of colors, since it's closer to the mid-range versus being really on the purple side. Hopefully that made sense. Sorry, I was rambling there for a bit. Alright, then I've got American Journey Coral Red, and I think I have one of these somewhere. Aha! I found it. So this was, I just reviewed the Mission Gold colors, and this is Cherry Red for them. It's Coral Red for American Journey. I did not like the Mission Gold version at all. It would have this really weird texture to it. The Coral Red in American Journey doesn't have that same problem. It is nicer in texture. Still not a color that I would personally use very often, but I know it would be useful for floral painters. Alright, next up we have Passionate Purple, which is a mixture of PR88, which I thought I had, but I guess I don't. But it reminds me a lot off the top of my head of one of the new Daniel Smith colors, so let's see if my instinct is right on that. Oh, I was wrong. It's a Schmincke color, one of the new Schmincke colors. They're Quinacridone Purple, which is made from PV55. That's what this color reminds me a lot of. The Passionate Purple is more on the red side, versus this is a bit cooler. But it's a really unique color, and I'm not sure how I would use it in paintings, but I certainly would like to give it a shot. Alright, so next I have PV23, and this is Dioxazine Violet. Now I have a whole color spotlight on this color. One of the things to note about it is that it can vary tremendously in different forms. The American Journeys version, at least from my first impressions, again I haven't used these a whole lot yet, but it is nowhere near... It is nowhere near the intensity of Imgram or Core or even Winsor Violet. It's much lighter in the mass tone, so I don't know if that's something that just happened to happen with this swatch. I try to get them all as evenly as possible with as dark mass tone as I can in my swatches, but that's just something to note here. This does seem to be a little on the cooler side, and I would definitely prefer one of these two versions over this one, just based on first impressions alone. Alright, then I've got their Cerulean Blue Genuine, which is made from PB36. I've got a couple other samples of this. It is a really nice, pleasant sky blue, and I think out of the other two that I have to directly compare it to, between the Turner and the Lucas, I do prefer the American Journey version. I also have another color that's very similar, Cobalt Azure from Schmincke, and that's one of their new colors, I believe. It's PB35, and this is more granulating, so if you like a more granulating color, I might recommend the Schmincke, but this is a really, really pretty sky blue, and I think it's my favorite version of Cerulean that I've seen so far, although I don't use this color very often. Next up I have Midnight Blue, which is a convenience blue, it looks like. PB60 is Indanthrone Blue, and then PB19, which is one of those rose, purpley red, whatever, quinacridone colors. So a hint on the purple side. I don't have anything too comparable to this, I don't think. Let me show you my other Indanthrone blues. Nope, just kidding, I don't have any. The closest one I have here is the Majella Blue, which is definitely darker in tone, but it's made from different colors. What I was thinking of with the PB60 is that Mission Gold's old formula for Majella Blue was made out of PB60. Alright, now I've got their color Junebug, which is made from PB27, which is Prussian Blue, and PG7, which is Phthalo Green. So here are my other Phthalo Blues. You can tell that this version is a bit on the tealer side, but does have that Prussian Blue quality to it. And then we've added the PG7 to it to bring it up a tiny bit, but it's definitely closer to the Prussian Blue. This is the color that you could probably very easily mix. I think it would be probably mostly Prussian Blue with just a hint of the Phthalo Green, especially given how strong the tinting strength is of Phthalo Green. The last color I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised with, and I'm excited to try to use it in a painting. It's called Reddish Black, which is more descriptive of the color itself rather than the pigments used. It's made from PR209 and PBK6, so it does have a black in it. But if we compare it to our other blacks that I've got here, it's got a more lively tone to it, and it's definitely the warmest version of a black that I have, so good job on the reddish part of the name there. I would compare this almost to like a more pleasant version of a sepia. I like it a lot better than the kind of flat, cool colors, but you all know how much I enjoy my warm tones. Here it is next to Lucas's sepia. Definitely prefer American Journeys more, but overall it's just a really unique color that I don't already have in my palette, so I'm happy to add it. Alright, well that was a comparison of all the swatch cards that I have compared to my swatch cards in my binder, so we could see how they compare to other brands, but let's go ahead and get our hands on them, do some mixtures, and see how they perform. Alright, I'm going to try and film this the best that I can right now. I have light ever increasing in for my window, so I'm not sure if it's going to put a damper on this. I might have to stop recording and come back later, but I've had these here for several weeks now, and I'm really excited to see how they perform. So I'm just going to be using a 6-round Princeton Heritage brush today for my little swatches here on a little piece of arches. Now I usually don't use higher quality materials for my reviews and videos just because it gets so expensive, but because there isn't another review of this online and I'm really excited to see how they perform, I do want to use my highest quality materials so that it's not an unfair comparison using them on the cheaper paper. Now I did use this palette of colors when I did my Paint With Me Lupin video of the flowers a couple weeks ago, so I do have some experience with a couple of the colors, but certainly not all of them. So I'm going to start by getting my Bumblebee yellow, again this is Hans Yellow Medium, ready to mix with one of my reds. And now I don't know where everything is in its little cubby hole yet, so I'm using my little cheat sheet that Victor made for me. And I'm going to go ahead and start with, I think the Coral Red and the Bumblebee Yellow, which is the PY97. And we're going to see what kind of oranges we can get from it. It's such a corally red on its own, so it's going to make really unique oranges when we mix it together with this yellow. Then we can also take that same yellow and let's go ahead and mix up a green. I'm going to go ahead and use, I think the Cerulean blue is actually the closest thing that I have to a primary blue. It's going to make a more muted green, but we can see what that looks like here. It's like this really interesting soft teal color almost. When it's on the more blue side, it actually makes a pretty vibrant green when it has more yellow in it, and let's see about that yellow green. And that's going to granulate really nicely too while it's drying, so I'm excited to see what that looks like. And then let's go ahead and try a different blue with that as well. This is the coolest yellow that I have, so I'm going to keep using this yellow, but let's go ahead and take the midnight blue this time. Now this is the composite color of PB60 and PB19, so it's not going to mix up perfectly like a single pigment would, but it doesn't have to be single pigment to make nice mixtures. While I do agree that single pigments are certainly easier to use because you can expect more from them and they're more consistent, dual colored paints are not a bad thing, and I think that they've gotten a really bad rap in at least the time that I've been on YouTube. I'm seeing more and more of people not wanting to use mixture colors when, I mean, it's fine if you like the color, don't worry about it. If you don't like the color, then that's fine, you can go ahead and find a different color, but I think this set of greens is absolutely gorgeous, and this would make wonderful for landscape paintings, this bottom combination. Now I want to see what this quinacridone burnt scarlet makes as an orange, so it's already on the oranger side of things, and I'm going to mix it with a warm yellow and this gamboge hue. The quinacridone burnt scarlet was certainly the hardest paint in the palette, but it still was relatively easy to wet. So all of these paints have really good re-wet ability, if that is a word. And I have a sneaking suspicion that I'm going to love the oranges that this combination makes. It's funny for me to say whenever I'm doing reviews, like with oranges like this color here, that, oh, I don't like oranges, because so many of my paintings feature orange colors, like the back of the turtle, the red panda. Like I have so many paintings with that rich, deep, rusty orange. I love that color. I'm just not a fan of the super, super bright secondary-ish type colors here. I should stop talking and make sure that my paints don't dry too much while I'm mixing them. This reminds me very much of using my quinacridone burnt orange. So, and then how about some purples? So I'm going to use the 1, 2, 3. We've got the permanent rose. It's really interesting working with palettes that I didn't squeeze out myself because I'm so clueless on where everything is on the palette. It's a very disorienting feeling for sure. Here we go. This is the Permanent Rose PV19 and the Midnight Blue again. That's the one that we used down here for the green. And that version has more red in it, so we're going to add some more blue. And some more blue still. I feel like I went too far. Need some more red in there. Alright. I can show you a range of those. And then I also want to try and like push it to another extreme. I've got this Passionate Purple here, which already has a very, very purple tone. I guess I would still call it a magenta, but it's certainly on its way to purple. And I kind of want to see what this teal color does. What's it called? Junebug, the Prussian blue with the phthalo green added to it. I accidentally splashed some color into one of my samples there. Apologize for that. So here's that Passionate Purple mixed with a little bit of the Junebug. And we're going to add a little more of the blue. This beautiful, like moody, deep purpley blue indigo color. If that holds its color when it dries, I think I would actually prefer it more than indigo. Indigo and In the Throne blue tend to fade a little bit too much for my liking when they're going from their wet state to the dry state. And so if I was able to find a color that could hold that intensity, that would be great. Oh, I love those colors. They're so dark and so moody, but so beautiful. Hopefully you can see that a little bit better when it dries. I think it looks a little bit dark on the camera. And then let's see what kind of blacks we can make. Now we already have our Reddish Black here, so maybe I'll put that down as kind of like a, we've already got this represented in our palette. And this Friday we're also going to have a How to Mix Blacks color mixing video. So I'm not going to go too in-depth here because I'm going to be recording that very, very shortly. Got too much water on this sample. Alright, so if we take our Midnight Blue, I don't know if there's any way for me to get this on camera without moving things around the bunch. But we've got our Midnight Blue. I'm going to add some Poppy. This is an orangey red. So orange is the complement of blue, and that should get us to a fairly good starting place. This is a very deep purpley black. And then if I don't want it to be so purple, I can add a little bit of yellow. I have to just decide which yellow. Let's go with the orangier one. Still a bit on the yellow side. I mean purple side, so we need to add more yellow. And then you can see how fast this can go from one color to another. It's now very yellow, so we can add more blue. And we get this deep, moody gray color. And then finally, let's add a tiny bit more of that red. See if we can warm it up a bit. Actually, this is almost like a perfect neutral. Let me go ahead and swatch that out a little bit larger for you so you can see the whole gray area. So I was only using those three colors, the Midnight Blue, Poppy, and the Gamboge Hue. And those are made with, some of them are made with more than one pigment, but I only used those three out of the pans, and I was able to get these three different shades of black from them. This one is super, super neutral. And then we've got a more greenish blue version and a more purple version. All right, so here's a good close-up for you of the dried color mixing that we did. I'm sorry that there's a little drop of magenta in there that I did not intend for it to happen like that. But we've got two very different oranges. This is a very peachy color that you could use for skin tones or like bright springy type flowers. And then here we have a more autumn color that is very deep and rich and very close to the quinacridone burnt orange that I use regularly. Then we've got a cerulean blue mixed with the Bumblebee yellow here that makes a range of like tealy greens to light, bright yellow greens. And then we've got a deeper forest green, mixed the midnight blue with that same yellow together. A nice sap green in the middle here. That would be very, very useful for paintings. We've got two different versions of purple here that are kind of similar. Sorry about that they're not a little bit more different from each other. I think this is the permanent rose with midnight blue, and this was the passionate purple with the Junebug. I absolutely love this darker purple. It is so deep and so vibrant, and it did not fade when it dried, so I will be very excited to add that to my paintings. Then we've got the blacks over here, starting with Reddish Black that was straight out of the pan, and then we mixed three different blacks from the same three pigments using Midnight, Blue, Poppy, and Gamboge Hue. We've got a redder version here, a more greeny bluish version here, and a nice neutral even tone black on the bottom. So my first impressions are actually very, very high for these paints. Alright, I have a couple more things I wanted to chat about before you go. One is that on this card that Victor made for me, I think it's a wood pulp paper, but I don't know which kind specifically. I did want to note that the mass tones that he painted out are a bit shiny, so I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but they dried kind of similarly to Kurataki's, have that really interesting shine to them. These ones did the same, however that was not the case on the Arches paper when they were used with more water, so I don't think it would be a problem in actual paintings, just if you're painting really, really strong mass tones that might come up. The other thing is that I can't really touch a whole lot on light fastness because I haven't used these paints for very long. I haven't done testing. They do have a chart on their website. I'll put a link in the description below so you can check that out. They only have a 3-point system scale, so a lot of companies use a 4-point light fast scale, so you have 1 through 4, so stains on 1s and 2s is fine, and then I definitely avoid colors that are in the 3 to 4 range. With the 1 to 2 and 3 range, you know, I don't know how I'm supposed to interpret that for the 2s, and it does look like a lot of the paints do have a 2 rating. However, again, if you're using these for journaling or in your home when it's not going to be hanging in a window, it's going to be fine. You don't need to worry too much about light fastness, especially for your own personal work. If you're going to be using these in a professional quality to sell for commissions or to hang in galleries, you might want to take a closer look at that before committing wholeheartedly to a few of the colors. I mean, a lot of them are rated 1, and I wouldn't have any reservations about using those in paintings, but I don't know what the system is like. I'll have to run some of my own light fast testing here. I'm not really sure why these paints aren't more heavily advertised. They are only available through Cheap Joe's because it is their brand of paint, so I don't know if our European or other worldwide viewers will find this review useful at all. I apologize for that, but for American viewers, they're made in the USA. I just would really love to see more content. I would love to see more YouTube reviews on these. I would love to see them advertising more heavily because I do think they have a really beautiful product, really easy to re-wet, very vibrant colors, beautiful in mixes. I can't wait to use these to try out more. I was so hesitant to invest anything in these paints because I didn't know anything about them, and having reviews from non-biased reviewers that are well known and liked in their community, I think could go a really long way for them. I don't want to just go off of what the company is telling me about the paints. I want to see them in action from other places. So I hope that you found this review useful, and I look forward to using these more. I would recommend them based on my first impressions. Thanks again to Victor for sending them, and I will see you on Friday for our color mixing video on black. So thanks so much. Have a great day.